Oh, I love a good roasted chicken recipe. But you know, if you're roasting a whole chicken, it can take a few hours and even longer if you've got it stuffed. I love the stuffing, I love the chicken, but I want to do it in less time. So stay with me for my autumn roasted chicken. I've got my favorite apron on and I am ready to jump into this recipe, which actually starts with making the stuffing. Now, I start by cooking some bacon, or you can use pancetta if you wish. If you'd prefer to skip using a pork product, well, just go to a drizzle of olive oil to start cooking your vegetables. But I'll soften and par cook my bacon first. It just adds a depth of flavor. Because I am splitting my chicken to roast it and I'm baking it on top of the stuffing, which takes less time, I want to make sure I'm maximizing at every opportunity on flavor to work in there. I don't worry if I have a little bit of browning in the pan. That just happens when you cook bacon, because when I add my onion and celery, that moisture from the vegetables will pull that beautiful, flavorful fond off the bottom. In goes the onion and the celery. And now I'm cooking that out for about 5 minutes on medium heat. You want to make sure to give it a stir now and again. If the softening vegetables don't pull up that beautiful sticky business on the bottom of the pan, my splash of white wine will. Before a chicken even goes in the oven, that smell of the bacon cooking with the onions and the celery, it just hints at the stuffing and the beautiful flavors that are going to happen. Had a chance to soften up, I can add more aromatics, garlic, fresh thyme, and you have options when it comes to sage. If you have fresh sage, great, chop it up and throw it in. If you don't, you could use poultry seasoning or even dried sage. Thyme, and I've got the dried. This only takes a minute to stir in and wake up those aromas. I'll add a pinch of salt now, a little pepper. You don't need a whole lot of salt and pepper when it comes to your aromatics for the stuffing, because the bread itself has seasoning, and so you're only just adding a little extra to it. Because this dish spends half the time in the oven that a whole roasted chicken does, I like to make sure I add moisture to the stuffing. So this can be a choice of stock, white wine, or even dry vermouth, which really builds on the aromatics. That goes in now. I can deglaze my pan. All right, I just let that simmer for a minute or two, and it's not so much that the liquid is fully evaporated, though you will see it has absorbed into the vegetables. That will add moisture to the stuffing in addition to the juices from the chicken as this roast chicken cooks. All right, I am ready to add this to my diced bread. I've got sourdough bread here. I've left the crust on. It's day-old bread, so it's rather dry. If you have fresher bread, you can dice it up and just pop it in the oven for about 10 minutes at 375, just to dry it out a little bit. But now, I'm gonna add all these beautiful flavorings to the bread. I'll give that just a quick toss. And I add my parsley now, just to keep the color nice and vibrant. And it really is just for color more than anything else. The thyme and the sage add all the flavor. Okay, I'm gonna make use of this pan again because it can go into the oven. And I'll put the stuffing back into the pan. So you don't need a huge size roasting pan, just one that contains the stuffing nicely. All right, and I'm ready to put the chicken on top. I start off by buying a whole chicken, just a small roaster, about 4 pounds, 1.8 kilo. And then out of habit, I start at the top, on the breast. And I just use a sharp knife and I go down one side of the keel bone. Very slowly and gradually. You can make small, long but gentle cuts as you follow the line of the chicken rib cage all the way down to the bottom. And where the wing meets the breast, you'll feel a little joint. And you really push the knife through there to cut through it. It's cartilage, it'll cut easily. Then you flip the chicken over and keep following that knife around the wing, around the rib cage, and then you'll reach the thigh and where the drumstick is attached. You keep going and you'll want to give it a little pop and release that bit of cartilage so you can cut through. You may find your knife hits a very strong bone. That's that wishbone that is difficult to cut through. So cut your way around that and make sure you're cutting out any of the rib cage. You can cut through the backbone if you need to make it simpler. You want to repeat on the other side, and then I finish off by just clipping the wing tip because it can have a tendency to burn and look less appealing. You want to save what's left of the chicken because you can make a quick stock. Throw it in a pot with an onion, a couple of carrots, fresh thyme, and just cover it with water. And because it's just such a small amount, within an hour, 90 minutes on a low simmer, you've got a nice little chicken stock. And don't worry, I'll be making gravy in just a little bit. All right, so we've got the chicken. Part of the reason it cooks quickly is now the chicken breast itself is off the bone and there's a little space between the thigh and the breast, so it really takes no time at all to cook. And I arrange each half on top of the stuffing. Is it still called stuffing when it's not inside the chicken? I think it is. And this is what's left that I will make a stock from in a little while. Now, what I like to do to promote some nice browning is drizzle the top of the chicken with some olive oil. And I'll give that just a brush so it's fully covered. I don't rinse my chicken, but I pat it dry. That way it takes on the seasoning sticks and it'll brown nicely. And more for color than flavor, I do like a little bit of paprika. This is just a sweet Hungarian paprika. Generous sprinkle of salt, which I can do with my fingers because I haven't touched the chicken right now. And let's get some black pepper on there. When you're roasting a whole stuffed chicken, you have to cook it at a moderate temperature, usually about 350 Fahrenheit, so that the heat gets all the way through into the center of the stuffing. When you're cooking a chicken that's split like this, you can cook it at a higher temperature and it cooks a lot faster. So I've preheated my oven to 400 and I give this about an hour. Depending on the size of your chicken, it can take a little longer or a little less time. What you want to do is use an instant read digital thermometer. I insert it into the thickest part of the chicken, and when it reads 165 Fahrenheit, then I know it's fully cooked. All right. Now, while the chicken cooks, I want to show you how to make an easy, delicious gravy. But first, check out where this recipe came from, my latest cookbook, Anna Cooks. Writing cookbooks is my absolute favorite thing to do. So I'm thrilled to share with you my latest book, Anna Cooks. While you might know me for my baking, this book explores my savory side with over 125 recipes for breakfast, lunch, dinner, even snacks and nibbles, and of course, I have to include dessert. Plus tasty sides, breakfast bakes, and desserts like weeknight chocolate cake and apple slab pie will inspire you to get into the kitchen and cook to feel fulfilled. No matter your cooking experience, I'll be with you sharing advice on every page to let nothing stop you from making delicious dishes. Anna Cooks is available now wherever you buy your books. It's worth noting that when you prepare a chicken like this, you won't have the juices left at the bottom of your roasting pan because your stuffing's going to absorb it all. But you can make a homemade gravy really simply, and it starts by making a brown roux. So I have some butter here, and I'll get my heat going on medium. And I'll first melt the butter and then add a little bit of all-purpose flour. And essentially, what a roux is, it does thicken the stock, but it's a flavor builder. So when you're making a dark roux, you're cooking the flour in the butter, toasting it. And that toasted flavor is what imparts color and that familiar gravy taste. Making a dark roux can take 10 to 15 minutes depending how high your heat is, and you do want to stay with it and stir it really constantly, not vigorously, but just let the heat get at every millimeter of that roux. And you will find as you're cooking it, it might start off thicker, but as it gets darker, it loosens up and becomes easier to stir. How do you know when you're ready? It looks like the color of peanut butter, but it smells kind of toasty, nutty. If you've ever browned butter for baking, say to make a brown butter glaze, well, you know that aroma and color. So in addition to the flour toasting when you're making a roux, the butter itself is browning, the milk solids are caramelizing. That's why a simple combination of butter and flour cooked adds so much flavor to stock making a gravy. The color is starting to change. You can really see how much thinner the roux is now that it's super hot. Say the roux is the color of tahini now, so it needs to go a little further until it's peanut butter colored. But that won't take long. I've got a lovely peanut butter colored roux that's very thin and smells very toasty. So now it's time to add the stock. I've shut the heat off just so I can control the temperature and not overcook the roux. I'm gonna add a little stock. And immediately it thickens up. And now I can put the heat back on as I keep whisking in the remaining stock. You want to make sure you bring up the gravy to a full simmer. That way the roux fully activates its thickening power, adds its flavor, and then you're good to go. There we go. Now that my gravy is simmering, it's up to you if you want to add extra flavor. Obviously, some salt and pepper. You can add a little dry vermouth or white wine if you added it to your stuffing. A little chopped fresh thyme or sage. Or just let it be. I will work in some salt and pepper. Keep in mind, if you're using a packaged stock, it might be pre-seasoned. So taste it first before you add more salt. Okay. It's interesting how with a chicken gravy, you start off with a dark roux, but when you add 2 cups of a light stock, it does lighten it. But to me, that looks like a chicken gravy, and it's going to have fantastic flavor. Let's look at the consistency too. So see how it coats the back of the spoon and it's kind of velvety looking? You can run your finger down and it holds a line. That is a properly made gravy. I'll set this aside and it's time to pull out that chicken. Oh. I'll check the doneness. We want to hit 165 right through the center. I am there. It smells so good in here. Between the gravy, the chicken, and all the aromatics, the thyme, the poultry seasoning, the onion, the celery, this is a perfect autumn supper. It's also so handy that at this point, it's ready to serve, unlike a whole chicken, which you have to let rest and then figure out how to carve it. And do you want light meat or dark meat? Or a bit of both? You can have both. Ooh, that skin gets nice and crispy. You don't have to worry about basting the chicken. Because it's in a higher temperature oven, the skin does crisp up. And as I mentioned, there aren't the fatty juices running to the bottom because the stuffing has absorbed them all. So you can see that beautiful mix of soft stuffing cubes, but also some crispy croutons from the outside. And I think I'm going to go for a little white meat, like so. I am definitely on team gravy. And there it is, a beautiful autumn roasted chicken that takes a fraction of the time as a whole roasted chicken, but there you get the stuffing, the flavor, the tender chicken, and a gravy on top of it. I really hope you'll give this recipe a try so you can enjoy a full roasted chicken dinner just an hour in the oven. I'll see you again for some more delicious recipes, cooking and baking. So good. The fresh thyme is there. I can even taste that splash of white wine in the gravy.